Welcome to ZKast, everyone. I'm Z.S. Caraval from ZK Research, and I'm here at Cisco's Penn 1 office building. I'm here with Guy Diedrich, who runs the CDA program, a Country Digital Acceleration. We're actually in town for the climate sessions, which are part of the Global Citizen Festival, which, of course, Global Citizen is Cisco's been a big part of that for years. So, Guy, just as a reminder for people, tell us what you do and what CDA is.
Sure. Well, first of all, it's always a pleasure to be with you, Z.S. CDA, or the Country Digital Acceleration Program, was started about 8 years ago now. And the reason that we started the CDA program was because we were meeting with world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, ministers, that had developed very robust, well thought out national digital agendas, but they weren't really sure how to get started or how to execute on that plan. So Cisco stepped in and we developed a process whereby we could take that national digital agenda, create a national architecture, individual projects, budgets, and execution plans so that they could start developing smart cities, connecting the unconnected, building in security, addressing healthcare and education, and all of the different things that would be in there. And of course, we were able to invest directly in pilots and proofs of concept. So there was a great deal of risk mitigation so that when they entered this new world of digitization, they were doing so with a trusted partner and a technology advisor in the form of Cisco. We started out modestly in 5 countries, in France, Italy, Germany, UK, and India. And today we're in 50 countries around the world. And have done almost 1,600 individual digitization projects. Huh. So that's the Country Digital Acceleration Program in a nutshell.
And we talked a few months ago. Any updates since then? New countries that you want to talk about, or updates to current projects?
Yeah, so we have several new countries that are in the pipeline. The ones that are just now getting started are Singapore and New Zealand. We will also be looking at Vietnam and a few others. When you have 50, you really have hit, if you will, the obvious countries. But you've also hit a lot of small developing, small developed, large developing, and large developed countries. So we don't go to all the usual suspects. We're actually bringing in countries now that are on the rise, and we want to be a part of helping them enter the digital age.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of thought exercise to think about, because for a lot of those developing nations, if they do these digital programs right, they could actually leapfrog a lot of the developed nations that are dragging their heels, correct?
That is an excellent point. And in fact, it is the exact point that leaders around the world in these developing nations make, that they don't have legacy infrastructure that they have to replace. They can leapfrog and jump straight up to the front of the pack by partnering with Cisco and any number of our 60,000 partner companies around the world.
Yeah, well, certainly you're one of the few companies that has the reach to go do that. So kudos to you guys for doing that. Now, as I mentioned, we are here for as part of the Global Citizen activities, and Cisco's been not just a part of that organization, but really one of the lead sponsors and a big investor in this, right? And so, from your perspective, why this organization? Why does Cisco find this so important?
Well, it all started with our Chief People Policy and Purpose Officer, Fran Katsoudas. She's actually co-chair of Global Citizen. What we found was an alignment with our values, our beliefs, and most importantly, our purpose to power an inclusive future for all. And it was a nice dovetailing of missions. You know, Global Citizen has a global mandate, and they reach out to young people and they get them engaged and involved, addressing some of the key issues around the world, like climate change, like serving the underserved, connecting the unconnected. So it was just a perfect fit, and has been so ever since we started.
Yeah, and in fact, Cisco does provide an award, a $250,000 grant to the Youth Leadership Award winner. And I've been lucky enough to interview, I think, the past 4 winners. And they have one thing in common. They're all impressive young people that at that age to have such vision and passion about something, about making the world a better place, really is something. So it's good to see companies like yourself rewarding them, and I wish more companies would do that, because these are people with good ideas, and they just need a little bit of capital to get going. And once they're going.
Yeah, and when you make that award, it doesn't just come with money. There's mentorship, there's engagement, there's access to what is one of the premier networks in the world, and that is Cisco's partner network and global reach. So we can help these companies in so many ways. We can help make them global overnight.
Yeah, in fact, it's interesting because the award winner that I talked to this year, Kusano Wakusu, he has a company that builds like little science kits and things to bring STEM to underdeveloped countries. And he said he hadn't really thought about how he can use networking technology and collaboration technology to change the way he delivers things. But now that he's been involved with Cisco, that has become part of his thought process. And so it's interesting to see how he's used this platform now to even change his thinking on how he can deliver services better.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because with an award winner like that, you're talking about someone that is introducing young people to STEM for the first time. So it's helping to address the needs
in countries where they wouldn't normally ever, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And how does it fit with Cisco? It fits beautifully, because then we have some follow-on training opportunities through Cisco University, Cisco U, through the Networking Academy, where these individuals can continue their education and their training straight throughout their formative years and then into their professional lives.
Yeah. Now, we were both attended the climate sessions yesterday. Any thoughts from there?
Yeah, there is a sense of urgency, I think, that that isn't just reflected in the messaging, because you saw all of the panelists were so impressive. But what we're seeing in the Country Digital Acceleration Program is reflective of what we saw on stage yesterday. And that is, if you had asked me 3 years ago, how many world leaders had sustainability in their top 5, top 10 priorities for their digitization of their countries, I could have answered easily none.
Yeah.
Right? Today, it's all 50. And what we're noticing is that they're starting to invest in sustainability and climate change technologies for really the first time. And I mean meaningful amounts, which is why I think finally some of the COP promises are going to come to fruition. I think that a lot of the leaders that you saw yesterday at the climate change conference and a lot of the work that Global Citizen is doing are going to become more and more relevant, because people are now starting to take action, and we're seeing that evidence through investments around the world.
Yeah, it's not just world leaders too. I try and do about one CIO workshop a month, and I've done actually a little over that this year. And the ones I did over in Europe, one of the CIOs told me that sustainability now, it's 25% of the decision-making process for their RFPs.
Wow.
Yeah, which is huge. And so, but his feeling was, if they're not valuing their vendors on sustainability, then whatever initiatives they have as a company really go out the window, right? So they have to, they can talk the talk, but they actually have to walk the walk. And so it's becoming a bigger thing for private industry. One of the interesting takeaways I had yesterday too was the trust now that NGOs have in private sector. In fact, that's one thing we heard over and over and over. We need help from private sector to get this done. Where before, I think a lot of the lobbyists and activists and things really relied on the governments and public and things to help move initiatives along. But it's been very pleasing to me to see, folks like Chuck Robbins, your CEO, how active he is, and that's driven, that mission and the purpose Cisco has for the company. But I do think it's incumbent now upon businesses to actually take the lead here.
Wasn't it interesting yesterday when we heard from more than one of the activist groups and the NGOs that they were initially suspicious of associating with industry, with the private sector.
Because you guys are always trying to sell us something.
Well, admittedly. But yet what they found was that in their initial interactions, there was a sincerity.
Yeah.
And they saw the actual goals associated with sustainability and climate change goals being operationalized inside companies, not just, for instance, Cisco on Cisco, which we have been good environmental stewards for decades. But now we have a renewed vigor. We have very specific goals, and they see that, and they know that now they can associate with the private sector and have it be a very meaningful engagement and actually help propel their own initiatives.
Yeah, in fact, the private sector gives them a louder voice with which to speak through. And so, and it's not just Chuck Shetty. Nadella is very active, and, a lot of the Jensen Huang and NVIDIA, a lot of the major, and frankly, they should be.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it all comes from the top, right? People do what they're rewarded for, and so the system that is set up now within Cisco emanates from the top, emanates from Chuck and from Fran, and the requirements are so clearly spelled out as to how we're going to act within Cisco, but also how we're going to influence our supply chain and how we're going to influence our customers, because they want to be associated with good environmental stewards. And that's why Cisco has had so much success, not just internally, but in influencing in a very positive way our entire value chain.
Yeah, I think, and one of the other takeaways I had, and I want to talk to you more about this from a Cisco perspective, is the value of education. In fact, your Youth Leadership Award winner was focused on STEM. We had an entire panel on education, the importance of trying to build new skills. Well, from the very beginning, education, but then also being able to build digital skills. I think it was the World Economic Forum this year that stated that AI and digital technologies will eliminate, I think it was like 85 million jobs, but create
97 million net new digital age jobs, correct.
And so Cisco's always been big on certifications and training, but I know over the last couple of years, you've added things like Cisco U, NetAcad's grown quite a bit, that's expanded. And so talk about all the different ways that if someone was interested in learning some technical digital skills, they could, Cisco could help them.
Yeah, so you referenced the two primary programs, but what we're trying to do is to give as many entry points as possible for people like that are first being introduced to STEM, and they get excited about it and they want that to be their career. Well, we have Cisco U, we have the Networking Academy, and in fact, if you look at the Networking Academy, we are just celebrating our 26th year now of NetAcad. And it's interesting because originally it was started to develop a professional working class that could work on our networking equipment, that could install it and maintain it and innovate using it. Now it has just become not just the way that you get certified to work on Cisco equipment, but it is the gold standard, and it is also providing security training now, all the way up through certification, basic programming skills. We'll have programs coming out around sustainability, IT for OT. So the entire program is expanding based on the needs and demands and requirements of those students that are out there. And we want to give them as many access points as possible, because when they have access, they can change their lives.
Yeah, in fact, I think you may be selling that a little short, even back in the day. I remember when I was an engineer, I was talking with an engineer from one of your competitors, and he had a Cisco Pressbook on MPLS. And I said, why are you reading that? They're your competitor. He goes, well, look, part of this book's all Cisco stuff, but there's a lot of really good educational information in here. So if you want to understand how MPLS works, read the Cisco stuff. And so even your competitors kind of recognize that.
Yeah, that's a wonderful anecdote. That's a great story.
Yeah. And so there is a certain urgency out there today too, when you say that from a reskilling perspective. I've been around a long time. You've been around a long time. We've seen these transitions before: mainframes to PCs, TDM phones to VoIP, physical service to virtual service. But it seems like these transitions are happening a lot faster today.
It is, we used to reference Moore's Law all the time with regard to processor speed. You can now apply that to entire overhauls of our industry. I mean, the amount of change, the amount of progress that we're making it's hard to keep up with, even for technology companies, right? When you talk about AI, we have all sorts of interesting opportunities there, but we also have challenges. So the opportunities, it's going to make so many things more efficient, right? It's going to allow us to work faster, more productively. At the same time, we have to be careful, because if there aren't some guardrails in place, particularly around the ethical use of AI,
Yes.
things could get out of control pretty quickly. And one of the things that Cisco is particularly interested in is taking bias out of AI. Because if we don't do that now, all we're going to be doing is taking our biases and spreading them more efficiently.
Yeah.
But
you reinforce it in a way.
Indeed, you do. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. Technology is changing rapidly, and mostly for the good, but we've got to be good ethical stewards of those changes as well.
Yeah, and AI is an interesting topic because there are a lot of IT pros that fear it, and I've tried to explain to people that it's a tool, right? And just like no one's going to hop in a car today that's got no driver and no controls, but there are a lot of AI things in your car, parallel park assist, lane change, that make us better drivers, it makes us smarter drivers, and reduces accidents, right? And I think from an IT perspective, there's lots and lots of things that you've built into your network equipment, Wi-Fi troubleshooting, things like that, that are the analogies of parallel park assist, things we don't do very well, but we need help doing.
Well, you raise a great point. We think AI is just now emerging on the scene, right?
And that's you guys would do. Yeah.
Right. It's been embedded in our networks for years and years and years. It's just that it was a normal course of doing business. It was a normal technological evolution. What really changed everything is ChatGPT, where all of a sudden the world becomes very much aware of certain applications of AI because it directly impacts or influences their daily lives. Whereas the AI that we've been embedding in our networks for years and years wouldn't necessarily be something that most of the world would recognize, although it's been there.
All right, Guy. Well, thanks for your time. What's next for you?
So next is we are going to be opening up some new countries, as mentioned. We're going to be doubling down in a number of countries. We're going to be expanding the Networking Academy. I said we just celebrated our 26th year, and what we pledge to do is 25 million new students over the next 10 years, which is a remarkable undertaking.
And that still won't close the skills gap, will it?
It won't. Well, you mentioned, and this is an important point, you mentioned that, we're going to be churning. We're going to be replacing 85 million jobs, displacing workers out of their jobs. They've done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
They've done everything right, in fact. It's just that because of technological change, there's going to be a churn. Those 85 million workers, though, are going to be hopefully the beneficiaries of the 97 million new digital age jobs that are coming in. So we have an obligation to reskill those 85 million so that they become productive workers in the digital age. And we also have an obligation to upskill those 12 million net new, and that's only going to be expanding over time. So point being, Zeus, is that Networking Academy, Cisco U, and similar efforts are going to be more relevant moving forward than ever.
Yeah, and so if you're watching this, it's an important point to understand. The industry is moving with or without you.
Yes.
Right, and I've seen this play out before. There's many people that had mainframe knowledge that didn't become Windows administrators, or people that ran old PDM systems that couldn't work with VoIP, or even the cloud skills today in the world of compute. Right, this happens over and over and over. If you want to stay current, reskilling is the most important thing you can do. In fact, that's why automation technology is so important, because it frees up time with which you can actually go reskill instead of trying to fight all the fires that you're normally doing. So I do think that for every IT pro out there, it's incumbent upon you, for your own resume, to keep your skills current, because the world is changing fast than ever. So
Absolutely true.
yeah. So, anyways, for Guy, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure.
I suppose I'll see you in a few weeks in Dubai, probably.
We see each other around the world, and I enjoy it every time. Thank you,
All right.
Zias.
So on behalf of Guy Diedrich, I'm ZS Caravellis, and thanks for watching. Please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on another ZKast.